So this came up recently. I just wanted to have a chat about it because I feel like I have kind of a intimate perspective of it, right? Hey guys, Katie from the K Show blog here, and I give other women with chronic illnesses the confidence to travel the world and even travel the world solo. So if you end up liking this video, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me expand my message and reach more people. And if you do like the video, actually hit a thumbs up. That really helps as well. And you can, of course, leave your comments. Once we get into it, I am interested to hear what you think as well. So definitely leave a comment and we can have a little chat later. But let's get into it for now. So this is what I saw recently that I wanted to chat quickly about. And it was the perspective that white people shouldn't use the word immigrant to describe themselves because it takes away from the plight of immigrants of color. And the idea was that people of color who are immigrating to other countries go through more hurdles in the process itself, like when you're going through the immigration department to get approved, and then also while assimilating to the new country. So they go through more hurdles in both those things than a white person would. So using the same word to describe both is kind of diminishing what they go through. The idea was that white people should use the word expat, people of color use the word immigrant to sort of separate the two. Here's my take on all this. So I'm like glow in the dark, level white, right? And I have used the word immigrant to describe myself a lot over the 7 years since I immigrated to America. Here's my take. But first, like, look up the definition, because we are talking about a language, right? So definition is immigrant, a person who comes to live permanently in a foreign country. That back. So by the very definition of the word, I am an immigrant. I have come to live permanently in a foreign country. I've adopted this new country as my own, and I have no intention in any way to move back to Australia, right? Like, and look, like, I don't say y'all all the time, and I still like walk short distances instead of drive. Like, I haven't assimilated into the culture that much. Friendly banter, chill. But yeah, like, it's, you know, sort of my intentions to assimilate into life as an American. My legal status is an immigrant. I have a alien registration number and all that. So like, by the very definition of the word, I am an immigrant. So my personal opinion is that I would continue to use the word because by definition, that's what I am. And I dislike the trend of taking a word with an agreed upon definition in a context and a social understanding of it, and then like morphing it or censoring it because of how a few people have interpreted it or because of how it makes some people feel. It's not emotions, it's a word, right? Like this is a language, and it's a word to describe like a status in a country even. So like, in my opinion, you don't really get to tell people not to use a word when they're using it correctly by the agreed upon standards, you know, in the definition of it, and in the right context, like it's contextually accurate as well. I think being like woke is good in terms of expanding your views beyond wherever their limit is and like getting a good social understanding of different issues. Those are really good things. But when it gets to a level that's removed from reality and sort of getting at that nitpicky, it just goes into like an extremist camp for me, and that's the kind of way you lose me. So sure, I think if a person was an immigrant, if they're like on a 1-year traveling visa or something like that, if they haven't immigrated and they're using it, go ahead, correct them. Like, that makes sense. You would be, you know, it would be appropriate if you knew them enough, you know, to say like, hey, I think you might be like using the wrong word, and expat might be more appropriate instead. That makes sense, right? Yeah, and that would be things like people on a, you know, a gap year tourist visa, or I lived in Italy for 4 years, for example. I never used the word to describe myself, you know, within the Italian life, because I wasn't an immigrant in Italy. Like, I hadn't immigrated. I was on a temporary visa. So like, yeah, I wasn't using that word then. And if anyone was using that word, like, yeah, it would be appropriate to correct them because they're not, in that context, immigrated to Italy. But yeah, in this context where like I have actively like left behind everything from my home country and moved into a new country to adopt this new country as my home, like, yeah, I have immigrated. And my last point would be that, like, I don't think it hurts anyone that I too use the word in the, you know, the correct and contextually appropriate manner, because I think it helps destigmatize it. And definitely there are people who have issues with immigrants. I've heard it firsthand, okay? Like, I know this exists, these prejudices and intolerances. And I mean, that's not only in America. I've heard the same things like almost everywhere I've been, pretty much, when I'm talking to people. Like, that's a common theme around the world. People have, well, not people, some people have issues with immigrants / foreigners, right? And so me, like, I think using the word, like using it more when it's, you know, obviously accurate and appropriate, it helps like destigmatize it a little bit and just make it a little more normal, and shows that, yeah, there's like people around you that are immigrants, like with no intention of like turning this new country into what their home country was, and like they're just like assimilating in and living around you. It's no trouble. Because I have had people like talk to me about immigrants, and I've had to be like, you know, I am one, right? Like, I mean, I think you might be referring to a whole different problem of illegal immigration, but like when you're using the word immigrant, like, that's incorrect. I'm one, you know, like, so I think me, you know, sort of being able to talk about it and like sort of educate people in that way, it's helps destigmatize it a little bit. So I don't think like more separation helps. I just don't. I think that longer term and bigger picture is not helpful for, I get what you're going for, but I don't think it actually helps in the long run. So that's just kind of my thoughts on this. I am interested to hear what you think as well. If you just want to get angry and yell at me because you can't handle like different opinions, I would just say, like, don't waste your time. I don't really care. Like, I would, if you have that urge, like, I would probably recommend more that you get therapy, you know, and try and like learn some healthy communication tips and like how to control your emotions. Like, you know, the things they teach toddlers to do, you know, when they don't have the right toy or whatever. But yeah, if you want to have like a normal adult healthy conversation, I am interested to hear what you think, so feel free to leave a comment. Otherwise, yeah, I just wanted to sort of like, you talk about that a little, and why I use the word, and like why I would continue to use the word, you know. So that's sort of my perspective and where I'm coming from. That's it. I'll see you next time. Bye.